Hello. I'm making a guide on how to start recording with Streamlabs OBS. Recently, I was approved for affiliate status, so that means that I have a link that people can use to download and install OBS, and that will give me a commission based on every single download, installation, and run of, people using Streamlabs OBS. So in light of that, I thought it might be a good idea to go ahead and try and make a getting started guide. This isn't going to be anything too complicated. There's a couple complex elements that play into it, but it's not something that you have to go into great detail usually in order to get started streaming. So just as a side note, I'm recording this on standard OBS, as you can see right there. And I have two monitors, so I just have it on one side, and then I'm capturing the device, the entire screen, on the side that has Streamlabs OBS. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration after a little bit of an overview of the layout here. So first things first, for getting started with streaming, you need to make sure that you have registered accounts for whatever platform you're streaming to. I use a service called Restream that allows me to stream to 8 platforms, so I have to have accounts with all 8 of those platforms. Those platforms all have stream keys, and the stream key is what you use from your software, like Streamlabs OBS. There's a couple different versions, but I prefer OBS. And the only reason I'm not using Streamlabs OBS currently, because I'm not just recording with OBS, I'm actually streaming with that right now. The reason is because I have an issue with my internet that I haven't resolved yet, that I don't absolutely know how to resolve. So in the meantime, I've just been using regular OBS. Otherwise, I'd be using Streamlabs OBS. The reason is because Streamlabs OBS has a lot of integrations. Streamlabs has awesome utility for things like notifications and that type of stuff that's already in Streamlabs, and you don't have to worry about doing the more complex paths of getting those things taken care of. So the first thing that we can look at about that is having chat on your stream, but that's not going to be yet. I'm going to start with the basics. The basics meaning how to make sure that your audio is working and how to make sure that you're capturing the right game or the right screen or whatever that is. So I have down here, I believe this is, yep, a new scene. We have game capture here. This is from another sample that I had made. So our sources down here is empty. These are my scenes, and I created a new scene just so I can demonstrate from scratch exactly how everything's going to go. But these are all games that I'd set up scenes for. So I have a new scene here that I'm going to go ahead and get started with. And whenever you click Add Source, you're going to get a whole bunch of options here. When you want to capture a specific window or a specific game, look for window capture, game capture. You can use display capture like I did right here. And when you add the source, you can just, choose whatever. And then bam, you're capturing your screen. Then you get this mess right here where it's capturing OBS. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that just so that it doesn't create too much of a headache. But you can do display capture for me personally, and from what I've heard of other people, it is pretty inefficient in comparison to game capture or window capture. And I swear there was one more. I just don't remember what it was. Anyways, you see tons of different options here. So whenever you have a game up and running, which I don't right now, I'm going to go ahead and open one up just so we can demonstrate. I'm going to open up Dota 2, and I'm going to scooch this over to the side for now, and it's updating. We'll just wait for the update. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and add a new source to capture the window. And I can do that by either using window or game capture. And personally, I haven't noticed a huge difference between the two. Other than that, some games work with game capture, other games only work with window capture. I can't explain it. It's just how it works for me. So I'll add the source for a game capture. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So that what you just saw, I'll go back to that. Whenever I click add source, you see existing sources down here. This is one really neat feature that OBS has. I don't know about any other softwares, but if you have already created one source of this exact type and you're just recreating it basically, I'm going to open up Dota here. So um, when you have already created it once, it gives you this window right here, this little panel that tells you all the other game capture elements you've already created so you don't unnecessarily duplicate them. Important to note that when you have one element from one scene down here and you integrate it into a new scene by using this option right here, if you change the settings of the source in this scene, it's going to adjust the settings in the other scene as well. So save yourself a headache, just create a new source if you're going to adjust the settings. So I'm going to add a new source here to make sure that I don't adjust the wrong thing. And I'm going to go back and get this game started so that I can demonstrate how you can display that game on your stream. Just got to let it finish loading, and I'll go ahead and switch back to OBS here. Streamlabs OBS, and I'm going to choose to capture specific window. The reason being that I always, since I have two monitors, I always go for borderless window capture and borderless window settings in the game. The reason is because whenever I try and tab out from a full screen application, it causes my screen to flicker, and it's just really inconvenient to try and alternate your windows. And usually, whenever you're streaming, you're interacting with a whole bunch of different windows, so you can't just use one. You can't just play your game if you're trying to be running your chat or running a bot in your channel that handles song requests, or you're trying to look at notifications, or you're trying to make sure that everything's right with your stream from the things that you can see on Streamlabs. It just doesn't work with just full screen for me. Personal experience. So pro tip for you, if you can get borderless windows going, that's great. And on that note as well for borderless windows, sometimes you don't get a game or a program that runs a borderless window. You only get them that run windowed mode. I have an awesome utility here called Borderless Gaming. And whenever I open this up, I will hit no on that update because it works fine either way. And you'll see here, these are all the windows that I currently have open. Let's say that Dota 2 is running in a bordered window right now. If I click this button right here, it attempts to take away the border. It doesn't work for every single game, but generally it works for most. And thankfully Dota doesn't have that issue. Some games have borderless window integrated into their settings directly, so you don't have to actually fiddle with that tool at all. But there are other games, like recently I did Battlefront 2, the classic version, that didn't have the borderless window option. So I used Borderless Gaming to make it a borderless window. It didn't work flawlessly just because the application wasn't designed to be played in windowed mode, like many games aren't whenever you have to run that application. But it still gave me that option, and I was still able to use the borderless window functionality to an extent. So that's just a little side note for you. So I'm going to go hit Dota 2 right here because this is the window that I want to capture. And you'll see right here on Streamlabs OBS that it just popped up. That's because it's capturing the window directly. And I will hit done on that. And that's my window right there. Now, if I stream with Streamlabs OBS right now, this will be captured. There is a slight issue, and that's that there aren't many things on my stream. And I like having lots of things on my stream just because I like stuff. So, speaking for exclusively, let's say Twitch or YouTube, whatever platform you're streaming to, I think Streamlabs will even let you stream with Mixer. I don't recall exactly because I always use Restream, but I don't know that you can directly support restreaming with Streamlabs. Like, say you have one stream that you're shooting out, which is what I do with Restream. I don't know if you would have to do that or you would have to have three different instances of Streamlabs OBS running. So I can't speak directly on that. But from my experience, whenever you have just that one platform, you have the option to integrate your chat. And right here, you see Chatbox. We'll add that source. It looks like it supports Twitch and YouTube. So added the chat box, and it gives me customization on the width, height, all the dimensions, the FPS, and everything like that. And then here's the widget type. This is something that's kind of, I believe it's unique to Streamlabs OBS, just the way that it's integrated, because you can do these things on normal OBS with different types of sources. But in Streamlabs OBS, they're automatically there. You don't have to fiddle with all the different browser sources. You do have to still change the settings on the website, but after you change the settings, because I don't, oh yeah, here's go to widget settings. So we'll go right here, click this and see what happens. It's on the dashboard, I think. Oh yeah, so that's great. So this is basically access to the website directly in the client, which is super convenient. I don't remember this being here either. So I haven't used this because Restream has its own chat application that I use, and I want to make sure that I use that because I have all those different platforms. I just want them all in one place. So it's a lot easier just to do one application like they have prepared for me instead of having to go to each individual platform and integrating their chat box independently, because some platforms don't even support that. Some platforms only Restream supports that. So that was my reason for not using this. Because then I'd have to use this 8 times on top of that, even if I could, you know. Anyways, so you see all the different setting options here, so you can just customize them. Just go through, take your time and go through and get something that you like. And whenever you're done, go back to the editor and you'll see here that there's this highlighted box. This highlighted box is an indication of where exactly your source is. So my chat box is right here in this highlighted box, and I can move it around just like that. If you hold Control, you can resize it, but this also does something else called cropping. And when you crop something, you're changing the size just, just like this. When you hold it down like this, it's scaling, but whenever you hold control, which I know you can't tell I am, when you hold control, it's cropping it rather than resizing it. So I can go over here to game capture, and if I hold control, it's not working. I think I have to hold, hmm. Oh, I remember. Okay, so I can't do it with that. I have to get something else. Let me see if I can add a image, or I can do text as well. So add a source, and I'll just use this one that I already have created. This is Nightbot now playing because Nightbot outputs a text element. So I have a text source that allows me to display the currently playing song from Nightbot. I imagine there are plenty of bots out there that also have this functionality, but I can move this wherever I want, yada yada. If I click and drag like that, it rescales it, but it should be that if I hold control, I don't think it works with this one either. Yeah, it doesn't. So I might be mistaken on that. But as far as I remember, there are certain elements that you can crop with control and click drag on the corner boxes like that. So unfortunately, I don't have a live demonstration, but so you see your chat box here. Let's see, I will go over here to my chat and I'll just type out test. And there you can see my chat's going test. So what you see right there, that was my, I have a bot on my Restream web chat app, the application that I have for my chat, that will relay the messages between all platforms. So um, you can adjust it this way. I'm going to test one more time, and we're going to go to the settings for this, and I'm going to go to properties, and under properties, I can change the size from the width to the height, and it won't let me. That or it's just super slow. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, it's just kind of slow. Don't have an answer for that. Normally my system handles stuff like that perfectly fine. So you can see adjusting the width seems to keep it centered or somewhat centered. I don't know about that gap right there, but if I were using this, I would have cropped it. But I have no idea how because I don't use that. But that's just a sample on how you can add a chat box through Streamlabs OBS, and it's right there. It's already integrated. These are so easy to use. And you can use all of them just right out the box. And then you can also change the properties like I showed earlier. So all kinds of different stuff you can do with those. Um, Sometimes you might run into an issue with your audio like I do. So I'll go ahead and unmute this and you can see this is my voice on the auxiliary audio device 1. If I go to properties, the options are simple. I have my mic and the default device. Sometimes whenever I'm streaming with Streamlabs OBS, it doesn't happen on OBS. My headset will disconnect, so and it stops transmitting my voice on Streamlabs. So the only way that I can actually fix it is by hitting default and reselecting the device. And I just hit default or my microphone because my microphone is my default device. It's the strangest thing. I don't know how to fix it, but it doesn't happen on OBS, and I haven't had to deal with that for a while, so that's kind of nice. But an obvious solution is just to get a better headset that doesn't disconnect all the time. This is my desktop audio. This is going to play any sound that my headphone or my default device will pick up. So it's picking up my default audio device, which is my headphones. And I can change that the same way that I change my mic by going to properties and selecting the device from here. So let's say that you're playing music out of your speakers and you want to, you don't want that on your stream. You got a headset on. You can select your headset on that menu. Nobody's going to hear your music. If you are choosing to record anything, then you need to have, say you're streaming and recording at the same time, and you want to stream music, but you don't want to record it. There is a messy, confusing way that I found to do it that I decided was too much work. But if you're interested in doing that, all you need is Voicemeeter Banana, which is a free software that you can use to essentially kind of reroute where audio goes, and you can change the output devices for it. So you have an input that you change to an output basically through that software. And it's a mess. I don't touch it anymore. I looked into it, it wasn't worth it for me. But you can record separate devices, or rather, if you have it outputting, you can also output it directly from here. but you can only do a couple pieces at a time or something like that. I don't remember exactly how that works. I've only used it for a single item, so I don't know if you can use multiple. I doubt you can, but if you go down to media source right here and add source, it shows you all the file formats that are supported. You can do images, you can do, well, I don't think, no, not images, you can do like GIFs and weapons and audio, that type of thing. You hit add source, media source, done. You can choose to use a local file, or you can add like a browser address to a direct file. And it showed you the supported file types too. So if you have like a direct address to a webm from a website, then you can input it right there and it'll play that video. Um, can't comment on this. I haven't used this feature for anything other than local files. So if I go to browse pictures, I can go to, let's say, oh, that's right. It doesn't support that. I gotta get music. Let's go down to music here. And I just pick some random song. You can see that it's loaded up this song, supported file type and everything. You can change the speed, customization options. Whenever I hit that and I go away from it, the media source is playing now. So the audio from my media source is going on my stream while I'm not listening to it, and you can see that it's live. It's potentially louder than my voice at times. So you can, on OBS, let's see, I don't know if it's the exact same. Generally, things between OBS and Streamlabs OBS are about the same, though. Yep, there's image right there, so I can load up an image just like that. Let me see if I can actually get something else. I want to get media source again, but I lost it. There it is. I'm going to hit add source, and I'm going to find it. I think it's in my downloads here. Let me look. I don't remember where I put it. There it is. So go to videos, just a directory that I have it stored in. And there you can see I have this little video that's playing, and it's even got sound to it, so you can see the media is playing both the audio and the video, and it's on my stream. This is something that I use for pre-stream screen, and if I hit loop here, it'll continue playing even after it finishes, but if I don't have loop on, then once it finishes playing through the first time, it's just going to close. And then I can also choose close file when inactive. And if the loop is off, then it'll just close the file. It won't have it open. I think that's some kind of resource save. I usually just have it looped though. It's only 9 seconds, so everything else, that should be just about everything that you need to truly get started. I'll do a quick overview of the settings and like the most important ones that you might need. So these are really just preferences right here. These are some things that if you use a support, they might need you to do that or have you try that to see if you can fix anything. Down here, you can see for stream type, it's almost always streaming services for the more common ones like Twitch and whatnot. And then you can see down here, Twitch, YouTube, Smashcast, you see you've got all these options. These are all, I don't know if these are absolute direct integrations with Streamlabs, but they are all different options that they offer. And coincidentally, these are, I streamed to almost all of these actually. It's kind of funny. So I streamed to Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, Smashcast. So not almost all of them, but I use Restream. So anyways, I have my service selected. I choose my server from right here. You can download a utility for Twitch that will test your ping on servers for your for Twitch. I I actually used that service without realizing that I wasn't using Twitch. I was using Restream at the time, and I tested the servers for Twitch. So I found the best Twitch server, and it turned out not to be the best Restream server. So that's one thing you don't want to get confused about. You don't want to mix up those services. You want to make sure you clarify mentally, that if you download a Twitch utility for ping test on their servers, that you make sure you're using Twitch. You're not using, like I did, Restream or a different service entirely. So after you choose your server, this is the stream key I'd mentioned earlier. I'm not going to show it, but you can just input your stream key right here. And what that does is it tells OBS, hey, shoot my information here. Whenever you do that, your stream is suddenly available on that platform, which stream key you input into this field. Under output, where you can typically just make everything work with simple output mode. You can look at the different encoder options. I use HVENC instead of software. And the reason is because my CPU is very weak. My GPU and my graphics card is very strong. So that means that I want to stress my video card more than my CPU, otherwise my entire computer lags to hell. It's impossible to do anything whenever I use software encoding. That's because I have virtually no available CPU whenever I'm playing a game. So I choose to use hardware encoding, which is NVENC. If you have a stronger GPU than CPU, and you notice that your frames are really suffering whenever you're trying to play anything, that's an option that you can try out. It definitely works for me because I have a very, very good graphics card. Now, as far as the bitrate goes, it depends on the resolution and the FPS that you're trying to stream with. General recommendation for 60 FPS 1080p is 6,000 or higher, I believe, for bitrate. And you kind of have to go based off of your personal network speed. So every megabyte per second of upload speed that you have is pretty close to about 1000 bit rate. And I have 10 megabytes up, but if I stress my network too much, I get that disconnection problem that I mentioned earlier. So I can't go to 10,000 bit rate. I've tried it quite a few times. My stream looks absolutely impeccable. I can do 60 FPS, 1080p, no problem. But my drops are way higher. So instead, I just do 1080p at 30 FPS. And the difference isn't terribly noticeable. Other than that, the reduced stress on my system actually increases performance for me. So that's probably the biggest juggle with streaming for me personally so far has been figuring out exactly what I can do to push my system to limits without actually losing anything on my system, essentially without losing, the ability to function well or normal. So, as it is with settings like hardware encoding as opposed to software encoding, and then figuring out the right FPS and bitrate and everything like that, I've found a pretty comfortable spot, but it took a lot of testing. So, you have to make sure that you're testing everything. If you're not testing stuff, then you're not going to figure it out. Audio bitrate is actually kind of up in the air. Like it doesn't change a whole lot. And I have it kind of high, but just because I have a high bitrate otherwise. You don't have to have super high audio bitrate. It's not going to change a whole lot unless you're doing like specifically streaming sound or something like that. Video is still going to be the biggest bitrate because it's just so much larger. But if you have your audio higher, then obviously your audio quality might sound better on your stream. If you're going for super high audio quality, then you need pretty high audio bitrate. Typically, I think 128 or 96 is good enough. I choose 224 just because I can. I don't have a good reason for that. But advanced encoder settings sometimes become relevant whenever let's say you're having issues with something. You might need to change something specific to your system's capability. So for me, I'll go down to advanced because I think I have an example of this, but I'll just have to see. I remember I had to change the rate control. I think my rate control was started on, oh geez, I can't remember. It's so long ago. I remember I had to change my rate control, but that was actually after I switched from OBS to Streamlabs OBS, and I don't have an explanation for that whatsoever. The keyframe interval is usually you can just leave it untouched. A lot of this stuff you don't have to go into great detail for. But the keyframe interval is one thing I'll stop on. A keyframe is basically whenever you stream a video. Um, I know that it's not really relevant for recording, but when you're streaming, a keyframe is basically telling whatever the video is, that hey, the frames are changing between these 2 points, and there is a certain amount of like you could consider like automatic compensation the platform can do for your video that you don't have to worry about as much, and it helps reduce the demand of how much information that video actually needs to be fully transmitted. If I understand correctly, don't take my word for that, but that's my understanding of it, and it's not super relevant. My main issue or my main concern was with recording more than streaming, and whenever it came to streaming, most places don't need a really huge or huge adjustment to your bit if to your keyframe interval. Some platforms have different requirements, so if you're not streaming to Twitch, make sure and look out for that. But on Twitch, I know it's 2 is what they request and what is required. Because I don't know if you can actually stream to Twitch with any keyframe interval other than 2. So I'm going to look for one setting because these are all I've never touched them, and I've never run into an instance where they needed to be touched. So I wouldn't really I'm not going to go over any of them, mostly because I don't understand them, but also because if you ever do need to mess with stuff like that, if you don't know what you're doing already, you should probably just go through the Streamlabs support system in order to figure out what you need to do to fix your problem instead of trying to adjust stuff on your own, because you can typically end up with a greater headache than is required. I have no explanation for these extra audio tracks. I just changed the bitrate on all of them and I just let it be. So, anyways, that's pretty much all the information that you really need to go over for this kind of stuff. You can go through a few other options, like this right here, canvas resolution and output resolution is one thing I changed. This is something that you definitely want to look out for if you're having issues on your computer streaming and you've tried between all the software and hardware encoding and you just can't get a fix for it. One thing you can also try is instead of trying to stream 1080p, which is 1920 by 1080 resolution, if that's your resolution on your computer, you can also try streaming to 1280 by 720, which is 720p. And this is a very, very common fix for a lot of people whenever they're streaming. So you can change the FPS value of what you stream to as well, just like this with a standard number. If you have 120 FPS fetish for your games, which I know a lot of people do, then you can choose to have your stream go 120. Just keep in mind, that's going to be a huge tax on your bit rate. You're going to have to increase it a lot under your stream settings, right? No, output settings. Yeah. So me streaming with 6000 bit rate works great for 1080p 30 FPS. But if I wanted to go 60 FPS, I'm probably gonna need a lot more bit rate. And like I said before, the only reason I don't do that is because my network wouldn't be able to handle it. So I'm gonna go click on hotkeys real quick so we can get a quick look at this. So you can click the plus sign right here and assign hotkeys to your, well, you've got a blank space already. So you can assign hotkeys just by pressing the hotkeys like so. Let me see. And then you can do the same thing otherwise. Then you just hit the minus to clear it if you don't want that hotkey anymore. And you can add additional hotkeys for them just by clicking the plus right there, just like I did earlier. So then one thing you'll also notice is that every scene that you have set up will allow for different hotkeys. So that means that all of these different scenes that I've got down here, I can adjust exactly what hotkey goes for what. So I can hide these and I can show them with a hotkey. I can switch to scenes with a hotkey. Basically, everything just works great. You can set up push to talk for your mic. You can set up, push to mute for your speakers. Just options all around. This is something that you really just need to go through on your own just to see if there's anything that you really want to do on your own. Because me going over it isn't actually going to cater to anybody. And I don't use hotkeys except I just recently started using hotkeys actually because I have this pre-stream screen now. And up until then, I was just clicking everything, so I don't have any opinions on the hotkeys. They just weren't necessary for me. On OBS, not on Streamlabs OBS, I used a high process priority, and that will cause game lag sometimes, but not super often. And that's typically whenever there used to be a trigger. I don't remember what it was. There was something that I identified as the cause for me losing frames because of the process being high, but now I can't remember what it is. So, um, Streamlabs OBS for me always used a lot more CPU, which was uh, annoying because, like I said, I have a super weak CPU. Like that ain't cool, dude. Now, advanced settings typically can be ignored, but stream delay is kind of simple. This is something that you can use if you hit enable, then you just delay your stream. Preserved cutoff point is something that I use, which is super important because my network dropping. If I use this, then that means that whenever my stream reconnects to the streaming server, then all of the information that wasn't transmitted while I was down still gets transmitted. It just comes in later. So that means that my delay is increased, but my stream doesn't just disappear when it goes down. The reason that's important for me is because whenever I'm streaming to YouTube where I save my VODs at, I want the stream to still be there and I want the whole stream to be there. So I absolutely have to have this setting on. One thing I did notice is that whenever I disconnect, as I reconnect on my stream or on my VOD on YouTube, the quality suffers briefly, but it seems to be the exact same stream and you can't even tell I disconnected. It's amazing. So Yeah, and everything else I'm not 100% sure on, but there are tons of features, and it's just something that has to be explored if it's, something you're interested in looking into. So that's the basics of how to get started with Streamlabs. And from there, it's really just based on your own personal ingenuity, exactly how far you can go with streaming, with recording, and with everything you integrate in between. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you're still watching, thanks for watching. There will be links in the description and a huge description for tons of different information on exactly what I've gone over in this video. So if any of it helped you out, go ahead and leave a like, share the video if you think it can help anybody else. And if you've got any questions about streaming with Streamlabs OBS, keep in mind that Streamlabs OBS offers an amazing support system, including a Discord where you can get almost instant feedback on any questions you have about the service. So anyways, thanks for watching. See you around.